Never waste a good crisis. And when it comes to the economic crisis, don't waste it when it can have a very positive impact.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to win over hearts and minds. And what that means is we've got to invest in countries that have no educational infrastructure, have no means for young people to get ahead. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
Stay tuned for politics and religion.
Well, if you have a death wish, perhaps you should move to Belgium, because in Belgium, euthanasia nurses fail to get consent. Almost half of the deaths by euthanasia in Belgium have involved patients who have not explicitly requested their lives to be ended by a doctor, a study has suggested. Now, you got to listen close to this, because this is like a foreign language to my ears, and I hope to yours as well. But there are people here in the United States of America that think we should have euthanasia. And I believe, if my memory serves me right, that they actually already have embraced this out in Oregon. Now, a fifth of nurses interviewed by researchers admitted that they have been involved in euthanasia of a patient based on the, quote, assumption they would want to die. Nearly half of the nurses, 120 out of 248, admitted they had taken part in terminations without request or consent. Come on now. You're kidding me, right? 120 out of 248 nurses that were interviewed, nearly half of the nurses admitted they've taken part in terminations that haven't even been requested. They just look at somebody and say, I don't think you have any reason to live anymore. You look like to me you're over the hill. And so they go to sleep that night and they never wake up in the morning. How can a society get to such a place? I mean, once you decide that the power of life and death should be in your hands, this is where it's going to go. And it all starts with abortion. What's worse? To terminate a fetus that's 6 months old, or to terminate a old person that may only have 6 months to live? It's a judgment call, right? I think they call it choice. All right. Well, let's read on. Euthanasia has been legal in Belgium since 2002, so for 8 years. It accounts for 2% of all deaths annually. The law states that patient consent must be given and that doctors must carry out the procedure. But the study published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal shows that the rules are routinely flouted and shows how doctors often delegate the administering of fatal drugs to the nurses. So even though the law says that a doctor must carry out this and that only as a result of patient consent, yet those rules are not followed. So this shows us what happens. Once you compromise the morals of a country, everybody gets used to it. And so the drift begins. The study states, by administering the life-ending drugs in some of the cases of euthanasia, and in almost half of the cases without an explicit request from the patient, the nurses in our study operated beyond the legal margins of their profession. So what will happen, you think? You think they're all going to be placed on trial for murder? I doubt it. I think everybody's sort of learned to accept it. It's just becoming a part of Belgian society. Dr. Peter Sanders of the anti-euthanasia charity Care Not Killing said, "We should take warning from this, that wherever you draw the line, people will go up to it and beyond it." Euthanasia. So a human being now assumes they have the power to decide when life ends. How does all this get started? It all starts when we quit believing in the Bible as God's Word. We have no standard for moral values, so we make up our own. We move from love of God and fear of God to humanism. Whatever we say is right is right. Whatever the majority agrees on is agreed on. Whatever we pass a law about, that's what we do. Frightening, but I promise you it would like to come to America. On Monday, the U.S. government announced that Social Security benefits will be paid electronically from now on. People who have been receiving checks for 40 years will now be forced to receive their checks by direct deposit or through a debit card. More and more of the world's economy is going cashless. Is that a good thing? We'll talk about the pros and cons today on Politics and Religion.
Look, there are two things I don't discuss: politics and religion.
In my house, we don't talk about politics and we don't talk about religion.
I'll talk to you about anything except politics and religion.
I never talk about politics and religion.
Politics determines how we'll live here on earth. Religion determines how we'll live forever. I'm Irvin Baxter. I think it's time we talk about it.
Interesting program with Mr. Gary Call yesterday. In case you missed it, you can go back and pick up the archive. Gary has just put out a new DVD, The Coming Globalization. But even though you've heard about globalization, Gary had so many interesting things, and in particular in his DVD, he deals with interfaithism and how the Pope is involved in the interfaith movement. Of course, you cannot ignore when you have a movement as large as Roman Catholicism with 1 billion adherents, and you have a Pope who sits at the top of that powerful pyramid, you cannot ignore what they are pushing towards, what they are doing. I found it of particular interest yesterday when he quoted from one of the Pope's recent encyclicals, an encyclical